Hello and welcome to the Knowing Show. I am your host, Christene Marie. Thank you all so much for joining me this morning. I am feeling honored and excited to be diving into this lesson. I had an interesting moment yesterday. Um, I was reading the lesson and came back on here, and there were a lot of strange comments, and it took me a moment. I paused and I was like, "Wait, why am I doing this?" There nobody was really engaged. And it was just a good moment to remember that the reason why we do this every morning is for the purpose of the content itself, not because of what other people say or the fact that it might even, maybe there will be other people we engage with here in the chat that's really meaningful, but we're doing this for ourselves. And so much of our growth is a singular pursuit. And last night on the Knowing Show, we just had the most, and on the Foundation First marketing as well on that channel too, we just had such incredible conversations. Last night was like so life-giving in the chat and in the community. Whereas yesterday morning, it was just kind of a weird time of engaging. And so yesterday I had these moments once in the morning where it was like, we do this for our own sake. We grow and we pursue our own edification for us so that we can love better. And then last night, it was a reminder what a blessing community is when it's there and when we do get edified by others. And so much of this morning is really the pursuit of individual growth. And maybe there's like addition and on top of that, we might have really good community and connection here in the chat this morning, and that would be wonderful. But for the most part, we do this work every single morning to edify ourselves. It's like nourishing our minds, nourishing our spirits. And so that's why we gather every morning, is to speak the truth and remember that the capital T truth of who God is and who God says that we are is of a higher ordinate than what the world says, how we even feel. We have to submit and adhere to a higher truth, because that ultimately is the thing that we fall back on when the going gets tough. It's like this biblical story of a house when the winds come. Is the house going to be swept away because it's built on sand, or is it going to stand tall because it's built on a firm foundation? So every morning when we have this morning show and we move through the readings that I'm about to share, this is part of what's contributing to solidifying that foundation and ensuring that we move through our day, much less the rest of our lives, on a strong foundation. So with that, I'm going to jump into just reviewing some of the lessons leading up to today's deeper dive in lesson review. So we're going to start with lesson 11. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. Lesson 12. Lesson 13, a meaningless world engenders fear. Lesson 14, God did not create a meaningless world. Lesson 15, my thoughts are images that I have made. Lesson 16, I have no neutral thoughts. Lesson 17, I see no neutral things. Lesson 18, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. Lesson 19, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. Lesson 20, I am determined to see. Lesson 21, I am determined to see things differently. Lesson 22, what I see is a form of vengeance. Lesson 23, I can escape from this world by giving up attack thoughts. Lesson 24, I do not perceive my own best interests. Lesson 25, I do not know what anything is for. Lesson 26, Lesson 26, my attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. Lesson 27, above all else, I want to see. Lesson 28, above all else, I want to see things differently. Lesson 29, God is in everything I see. Lesson 30, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. Lesson 31, I am not the victim of the world I see. Lesson 32, I have invented the world I see. Lesson 33, there is another way of looking at the world. Lesson 34, I could see peace instead of this. Lesson 35, my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. And lesson 36, which is our review for today. My holiness envelops everything I see. From my holiness does the perception of the real world come. Having forgiven, I no longer see myself as guilty. I can accept the innocence that is the truth about me. Seen through understanding eyes, the holiness of the world is all I see, for I can only picture the thoughts I hold about myself. Lesson 37, my holiness blesses the world. The perception of my holiness does not bless me alone. Everyone and everything I see in its light shares in the joy it brings me. There is nothing that is apart from this joy, because there is nothing that does not share my holiness. As I recognize my holiness, so does the holiness of the world shine forth for everyone to see. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. Lesson 38. My holiness is unlimited in its power to heal, because it is unlimited in its power to save. What is there to be saved from except illusions? And what are all illusions except false ideas about myself? My holiness undoes them all by asserting the truth about me. In the presence of my holiness, which I share with God himself, all idols vanish. Lesson 39, my holiness is my salvation. Since my holiness saves me from all guilt, recognizing my holiness is recognizing my salvation. It is also recognizing the salvation of the world. Once I have accepted my holiness, nothing can make me afraid. And because I am unafraid, everyone must share in my understanding, which is the gift of God to me and to the world. Lesson 40, I am blessed as a son of God. Herein lies my claim to all good and only good. I am blessed as a son of God. All good things are mine because God intended them for me. I cannot suffer any loss or deprivation or pain because of who I am. My Father supports me, protects me, and directs me in all things. His care for me is infinite and is with me forever. I am eternally blessed as his son. This is so beautiful. I really resonated with lesson 36, that review. My holiness envelops everything I see. From my holiness does the perception of the real world come. Having forgiven, I no longer see myself as guilty. I can accept the innocence that is the truth about me. Seen through understanding eyes, the holiness of the world is all I see, for I can picture only the thoughts I hold about myself. That last line, seen through understanding eyes, the holiness of the world is all I see, for I can only picture the thoughts I hold about myself. Y'all, what we see and observe in others is so often a reflection of how we view ourselves. There was this line I read a couple years ago in a book by Dr. Brene Brown, in the book called Daring Greatly. And she talks about the same judgment which we apply to ourselves, we apply to others. And that stopped. I judged myself harshly. And so I was like, okay, if this is true, if basically how I view myself is how I end up viewing other people, then I need to really radically change the way that I view myself. And then that kind of started me on this journey of like, okay, God, well, how do you see me? Because I don't want to be prideful. You know, this concept of like, if I view myself as someone worth loving, then I'm going to become this like evil green monster of pride and ego. And I was so afraid of that. Like the way that I grew up, there was just a lot of fear around having I guess you could say, high self-esteem, getting prideful, getting egotistical. And so I was so afraid of becoming that way that I kept myself in this cage of like people pleasing and performance. And so there's something around allowing ourselves to step into the truth of our identity as how God sees us. As we were just talking about the capital T truths, that is a capital T truth. And then there's all these other voices that can compete with the truth, which is you should stay small. You should stay in this cage. You should be obsequious. You should be submissive, kowtowing, like making yourself as small as possible. Because if we're operating out of fear, if we're afraid of who we'll become if we step into the power of who God made us to be, then we're going to stay small, or we are probably going to inevitably become really egotistical. So if any decision we make is rooted in fear, it's almost like there's only death as an outcome to death of love, death of our own potential, our own power, the death of the identity that is truly ours. Last night we were talking about, you know, the nucleus. You and I are like the nucleus of our lives in so many ways. And then there's concentric circles leading out. So we're the nucleus, and then we've got our family, and then we've got our extended family, and then we've got business, and we build out from there. So if our nucleus in our lives is not healthy, how do we expect to then be able to see our family and our work and our friends and colleagues as healthy either? Because we're not well. It's like we're the very center of our lives is diseased. It's sick. And so how do we then expect to see health in other people if our eyes and our lens itself is corrupt? So, starting with us, starting with how we view ourselves, starting with the nucleus and taking radical responsibility to address that is so incredibly important. We had some really vulnerable conversations on the Knowing Show last night where, we were sharing around, I have this perception of other people, and I have this deep wound, and how do I engage with the world coming from this place? And really it all comes back to, well, are we taking literally radical action in response to the areas that we know need to be healed? Because we can only ever love so well as we have that capacity in and of ourselves. And this is what's hopeful, is that we have free access to love at any point. We don't need to go and conjure it of our own volition. We actually can, there's something around in Psalms, which is probably, I think it's actually the most read book in the world, the book of Psalms. And it's just these, it's like poems of either praise or poems of heartache or poems of lament, hope, psalms and poems of hope. And it's this time it's written by multiple people, but predominantly by a young man who grew up tending sheep, thousands of years ago. And he grew up tending sheep and was a shepherd. And in the solitude, in the isolation and silence of his own soul, he kind of was cultivating himself and his relationship with God. And then he ends up going to the palace because he had this really beautiful music and these songs that he had cultivated in the silence of tending to the sheep. And he ended up just being hated by the king. And he ended up running for his life for, I think it was 7 years. He was hiding in caves and on the run. And what a terrible existence. And during those times, he wrote a lot of these poems where it was just really devastating. And so many people around the world over the last 2 centuries have found so much hope in his pain. They have been given solace and comfort. And y'all, it's just wild how in him pouring out his soul, in him emptying, there's the lymphatic system in our body drains toxins from us. Our emotional state, we actually need to have a rinsing and a cleansing of our emotions to pour out. We need to have effectively a process by which we rinse out and clean out the toxins and the waste and the old emotions that build up within us. We hear these concepts of suppressing emotions and pushing it down and stuffing it away. But if we don't take the time to effectively pour it out and rinse out and clean out our souls, it's all building up, and we've got inevitably corrosion inside of us. Just like how our bodies, if we're not doing the necessary toxin flushing, we're going to get sick. So we can get sick emotionally if we're not allowing the pouring out of what's inside of us. And in the pouring out, therein lies comfort, because so often if we're actually going to God and saying I need help right now, there is love waiting to replace the fear. But we have to pour out the fear in order for love to come in and fill that void. But if we're stuffed, if we're at capacity with fear, there's no place and there's no room for love. So in the pouring out of love, then we're refilled, or in the pouring out of fear, then we're filled in with love. But it doesn't have to be ours. We don't have to wait until we feel like it, I guess is a better way of saying it. And what a blessing that is, because I don't always feel like acting according to how I want to be. This morning actually is such a good example of that. I woke up and I knew I needed to get vertically aligned, but I was feeling so tired. And for me, vertical alignment, the principle of that is bringing my beliefs and behaviors, my mindset, my heart, my soul, my physical body, everything into submission. Effectively, hey, every part of me, you're going to live in alignment with who I want to be and what I'm called to do. And I've got a vision, I've got a dream of who I can be and how I can live. And all of you, I'm going to make you submit to me. Myself, my true self, who God made me to be, is in charge, not my feelings, not my pain, not the past. everything is going to be in submission underneath that hierarchy of my ideal, but ultimately under God. Who does God say that I am? He gets the final truth saying. He's the final authority in my life. And so in that, the principle of that is that, but then the practice of it is waking up every morning and making sure that I've got time to restore my soul, to pour out what needs to be poured out, and then refill with even just reminders of truth of who am I. And so I was laying in bed this morning. Well, I had gotten up, but I was just feeling so tired. And so I decided to do this. There's like an 11-minute meditation that I've done. And it was just so good. And so I did it. And it reminded me this morning of how much you and I are really the creators of our lives. We are given the author's pen in so many ways, and we get to write the story with every decision we make, with every choice, with every response. We are writing and authoring our life. And it just reminded me of like, oh, I'm choosing to feel tired and to stay in this small little state emotionally and physically of just feeling so tired. And I get to choose something else. I get to create something else. And it was exactly what I needed to kind of bring me out of my funk of just feeling so tired, and almost like my physical state of fatigue I was under the authority of that. And so to bring ourselves under the authority of a higher principle, man, there's a lot of power in there. And there's love that's waiting to power us forward and power us onward. So I just want to take a few minutes to jump here in the chat. Good morning. Wayne, hello. I'm so glad to see you. Coach Des, I'm on the East Coast right now, so it's 9:17 for me. Mehmet, hello. Good to see you. Mohammed, Condrex, thank you. Good to see you. Smart Money Ryan, I'm glad you're here. Borglum, this is not pre-recorded, we're live. Patrick's Crow, hello. Yo playa. Deuces, hello. Good to see you. Badge, good morning. Derek. James, good to see you. Derek, I'd love to. I'm gonna click on your show after this. Dash, good to see you. Unoya, Peter, good to see you guys. Dash says, are you in creative mode or survival mode? I had to switch to creative mode this morning. It's funny that you should ask that. I literally was in survival mode this morning, but in switching to creative mode and remembering that I hold the author's pen, that was huge. James Timmons, good morning. Kaif, Holiness, James. Benny Thomas, good morning. Wayne, I am blessed. I love that. James Timmons, I love what you said. Read what the real Jesus said, not the men who put the book together. It's so important that we've got different sources. Like I actually have really felt like God has taught me over the last 2 years that there's so much truth that he has spoken through different people, and he speaks truth through you and me. And so, yes, reading and consuming what other people have to say, but also listening. This morning, I was reminded of the power of listening. Like, God, what do you have to tell me? And like getting that little spark of revelation, man, that spark of revelation changes everything. So listening is just as important, perhaps even more so than consuming. Anthony, good morning. Jonathan, thank you guys for coming on. Jive. Jive As says, I can't stop sinning. I truly think I will burn. It took years to quit drinking after the core. Man, I don't know. I don't think so at all. I honestly, Jive, sorry. I would love to have you kind of come and hang out with us. Come and hang out with us tonight. We're going live. Actually, for everybody who's on right now, I'm going live tonight at 5:30 p.m. We're picking my sister up from the airport at 8, and I usually go live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So 5:30 p.m. Eastern tonight, we're going live, and we're diving into how do we really live as our best selves. Like last night, it was how do we live as kind of that top 1% echelon for ourselves? How do we really tap into the fullness of who we can be, of who we are, and remembering our identity in each regard, but also what are the practices, like very practical implications and applications that we can make in our lives today so that we can live to the fullness of our potential. And Jive, I just would love to have you. I think last night was such a good conversation, and I think that you'd find some encouragement there, because I think if we have the heart to live to the fullness of who we can be, I think that there's so much help in community and even from our own selves once we learn how to sit in the driver's seat of our lives. Wayne, projections are confessions. Peyton, I'm so glad you're here. Frankie, hello. Anthony, good to see you. Secretary, Binny, is there any other way to go but through the road that is built on Christ's teachings? That's a question, Binny. So I'm going to say something that I believe and have experienced, that I've also seen, like I've witnessed it as well. I have found that God teaches us. God is our teacher. And I have seen people read the Bible and live like the Pharisees, who, when Jesus, the story, as the story goes, the Pharisees were the most scolded and the most, who they got it wrong the most, And so I think that the thought of like, you have to fit into a box is really, really dangerous, because I've seen people fit into a box and not know God. And I've fit into the box and I didn't know God. I was like the perfect Christian for so many years. And then when my brother-in-law was killed, I realized how much I did not know God. I had thought for so long that if I act a certain way, effectively, I'll like get good favor. I'll like be able to earn my way to heaven. And I didn't even realize I thought that. And so it really isn't just about reading. It's about listening and having God be our teacher. And I think God can teach anyone, anywhere, anytime, through any lesson in any modality. I think God is that big, and I think God's in us. I think God literally is, man, does he love us? And man, were we made in his image. And so as we get to know who we are, we actually get to know our creator by getting to know the created. So the more we really get to know, that's the power of knowing. As I began to really pursue who was I created to be, I got to know God way more, because God spoke to me. But if I was ignoring myself, I was actually cutting myself off from access to his voice, because I wasn't listening and I wasn't going inward in any way. I wasn't paying attention to anything I thought or wanted or needed. And so by proxy, I cut off what God would tell me. And so this concept of knowing ourselves is so incredibly important, to then know God in that way, versus just, what does this book have to tell me? And so the more we go inward, the more we actually get to attune our ear to his voice and learn what is the heart of God? What is the eyes of God? If I want to be like God, like Christ is my example truly of how I want to live. And even just the other day, we were talking about Martin Luther King. What an incredible example of like this man who had a vision. And so I hope that answers your question. And I'd love to hear your perspective. I just think God is so much bigger than one path, one way, one box that everybody needs to fit into. So that's what I think. I'm just seeing some of these Wicks. Happy Friday. Oh my gosh. It's Friday. Oh, geez. Just a guy. You've got 2 streams running. I know. I've got 2 streams running. I'm actually going to stop going live on the Knowing Show. The Knowing podcast in the next, probably at the end of March. I'm going to be switching everything completely over to Christene Marie _knowing. So I will drop that here in the chat so you guys can go follow over there. But yes, I do have 2 streams running, and we're going to be done with that pretty soon here. Let me drop this other one so you can go follow if you'd like. And then we'll just be going live over on that channel. So let me drop that here in the chat. Harvey, good morning. It's good to see you. I love it. Benny says God is definitely within us. In the book of Genesis, God breathed life into human form. So hence God is in all of us. I love that. All of us. I love that. I'm with you. Oh, Ninja Hat. I don't really know what to say to you, Ninja Hat, but I hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope you get the love that you need. I'll say that. Sammy, hello. Thank you so much for your prayer. I'm so, so, so grateful. I'm so grateful for you, Sammy, joining. Wayne, God is an amazing teacher. Pay attention and listen. So, so beautiful. Ansley, good to see you. Man, 1981. Marine today. Greece is not very sunny. Ugh, where in Greece are you? I love Greece. Touch just made me laugh. Lucky. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. I'd love to hear from you and get to know you guys. Guys, I would love to know today. We are going to end today just with some prayer. I don't always end this way, but frankly, I think I need it. Some of the things here in the chat, sometimes it gets to me and I'm like, I need to recenter and like get myself back in alignment. And so I'm going to take a minute to pray. I would love to hear from you guys over if there's anything that you would like me to pray about. Sender V, yay. Oh, you just made my day. Thanks for joining. Benny Thomas, I think the relationship with God is the most important thing. Clint, I think we know we are deciding our fate in wealth with every choice we make, good choices or poor choices. Yes, honestly, and it's wealth and everything. Oh my gosh. It's so, so, so true. It's so true. Caleb, hello. Aniko, good to see you. Chase, good morning. We are children of the Most High. We have a calling, and all we must do is follow God's path that He has for us without question. Do you agree? Honestly, I think that sometimes we should question. God's actually been, I feel like one of the things that I've been learning recently is that, like, I'm not just God's robot. Like, He wants me to be engaged, mind, body, soul, spirit. Like there's this biblical concept of love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. So I actually need to take responsibility to like activate each one of those things and like have the strength by which to love God and have the mind cultivated and the heart cultivated and the love cultivated. And I need to be an active participant, and I'm not just a blind, we're not just God's AI, And so in us cultivating ourselves and choosing, like tonight, the conversation, or I guess this afternoon, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, for those of you who are going to join, we're talking about how to be our very best. And in so doing, I really believe that we honor God. And so, y'all, I'm going to just say a prayer. Sangma, good to see you. I'm just going to say a prayer for us. Benny says, please pray for my discharge and getting housing. Absolutely. I'm so glad to hear that. Wayne, don't pay attention to any of the negative. The number. Sammy, I've been told reaching out and talking about my accident helps. Y'all, we love Sammy. Sammy, we love you so much. C. Martin Love, Colossians 3:13. Bear with one another and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against him, forgive as the Lord forgave you. I love it. Y'all, today's lesson that I'm really going to be leaning into is my holiness envelops everything I see. I'm going to say a prayer. I'm going to say a prayer for Sammy, my dear friend, for Benny, for your discharge and your housing. I'm just going to go ahead and pray for all of us. And you're welcome to jump off or join us. Father, I just pray for, God, I pray for every person who has joined the chat today that has really needed love. God, we all do in so many ways, but and for some of us, Father, it's like I felt the pain with which they are communicating, and whether it's been through unkindness or insults or being critical, Father, for some reason, I've really felt that this morning. And so, Father, I just ask for every single person who has not shown love to be shown love this morning. God, that today they would experience the love of God in a way that changes them at a core level, that heals them at a core level. God, I thank you that we get to love with the love with which we've received. And so, Father, I pray that every single one of us would really feel the love of God today. Father, I pray for hope. God, I pray that we would remember the power of our choice, that we get to choose We have the power to decide and to create our day in so many ways. And Father, I pray that we would walk in the fullness of who you've called us to be. Father, I pray for Sammy. God, I pray that he just would feel hope that today is going to be a good day because he has the power over his mind. He has the power over his joy. Father, I pray that you speak to him. God, I pray for revelation. Father, I pray for our dear friend, coming back to your name, Benny Thomas, our new friend. Father, I pray for Benny with his discharge today and for housing. Father, I pray for clarity. God, I just remember that verse. You will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. God, may he know which way to walk in. Father, I thank you for your presence. God, thank you that we don't have to do life alone. God, thank you that our holiness, which you've given us, envelops everything we see, and we get to change the world in which we live through love and in love. In Jesus' name, amen. Y'all have such a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining. I will see you at 5:30 p.m. For those of you who want to join, we're joining this afternoon to talk about how to live our very, very best. So with that, have a wonderful day. Happy Friday. And I will talk to you this afternoon, 5:30 p.m. Eastern.